The flames behind the glass it started on a quiet Thursday night, the kind of night where the city seemed to hold its breath. Downtown Los Angeles was glowing under soft lights. Calm and unaware of what was about to happen, people were finishing dinners, scrolling phones, preparing for bed. But just outside the hills, where the roads curved around luxury mansions and private estates, danger had already begun. Keanu Reeves had just returned home after helping a neighbor fix his garage door. He wore an old hoodie and jeans. His dog, Luna, followed him closely, her tail wagging as they stepped inside. The house smelled of black coffee and cedar wood. Keanu placed his keys on the table and was about to sit down when he saw something strange outside his window. Far across the hills, maybe a mile away, he saw a flicker of light that didn't belong. It wasn't the moon nor streetlights. It was alive, orange, dancing. Fire. He stared for a moment, unsure. Then the flicker became a flame. A thick column of smoke lifted slowly into the night sky. Panic hit his chest like a punch. It was a fire, and it was growing fast. Keanu grabbed his phone and called emergency services. The operator's voice was calm but urgent. "We've already received multiple calls, sir. Firefighters are on their way." "How long?" Keanu asked. 15 minutes, maybe more. "Do not approach the scene." But Keanu was already grabbing his jacket. He knew the mansion that was burning. It belonged to CEO Daniel Ainsworth, one of the richest men in California. The newspapers called him a genius. The tabloids called him a ghost. Daniel rarely appeared in public, and few people knew what he looked like without his suit. But Keanu had met him once, and that one meeting had left a mark. A year ago, Daniel had invited Keanu to a fundraiser for underprivileged children. The two spoke briefly backstage. Keanu had expected arrogance, but instead he saw something else. Loneliness, deep loneliness, hidden behind sharp eyes and expensive fabric. Now, that same man might be burning alive. Keanu didn't think twice. He ran outside, jumped into his black truck, and drove toward the flames. As he drove, the sky above the mansion turned red. Ash fell like soft snow on the windshield. His hands gripped the steering wheel tighter as his truck climbed the narrow path. He passed two cars speeding in the opposite direction. They didn't stop. They were running. At the top of the hill, Keanu parked and jumped out. The heat slapped him across the face. It was like standing in front of an open oven. The mansion was half-eaten by flames. Glass exploded from windows. The roof had collapsed in one corner. Somewhere inside, a fire alarm screamed until it died in a hiss. Neighbors were shouting from behind gates, but no one dared step closer. "Get back," someone yelled. "It's not safe." But Keanu didn't listen. He took off his jacket and wrapped it around his face. He ran toward the front door, but it had caved in. So he moved toward the side patio, coughing from the smoke, eyes stinging. He kicked through a glass door and entered the mansion. It was chaos. Heat roared like a living beast. Smoke choked the hallways. Paintings melted on walls, and through all of it, Keanu shouted, "Daniel, can you hear me?" No answer. He pushed through the living room, past a flaming chandelier, past a piano that had collapsed on its side. Every step was pain. The heat scorched his arms, but he kept moving. Then he heard something, a faint banging sound, metal against metal, from downstairs. Keanu ran toward the basement door. It was stuck. He kicked it hard. Once, twice. On the third try, it gave way. Smoke poured out like a wave. He covered his face and stepped down. He found Daniel near the wine cellar. The CEO was pinned under a steel beam. He looked half-conscious, bleeding from his forehead. His lips moved, but the words didn't come. Keanu dropped beside him. "I've got you," he said. He tried to lift the beam, but it didn't budge. He looked around, spotted a crowbar near the wall, probably left by a repair crew earlier. He grabbed it, shoved it under the beam, and leaned all of his weight. The beam creaked. He pushed harder. And then it moved. With a shout, he pulled Daniel free and lifted him over his shoulders. Outside, the fire had spread to the garden. When Keanu burst out of the burning house, carrying Daniel in his arms, the crowd went silent. Someone screamed. Someone dropped their phone. The firemen were arriving just then, sirens cutting through the night. They ran with stretchers and water hoses. But all eyes were on the man walking through smoke and flame, his face covered in ash, his eyes steady. Keanu Reeves carried Daniel Ainsworth like he weighed nothing. He placed him gently on the grass and knelt beside him. Daniel coughed, gasped, then whispered, "Why?" Keanu smiled softly. "Because no one deserves to burn alone." The firefighters took over. Paramedics rushed in. They treated Keanu's burns and loaded Daniel into an ambulance. Reporters were arriving now, lights, cameras, chaos. But Keanu stepped away. He didn't want applause. He just wanted silence. An hour later, he sat alone on a bench, Luna resting her head on his lap. The sky above was black again. The mansion was gone. Only ash remained. A firefighter approached him. "You saved his life," he said. Keanu nodded but said nothing. The firefighter hesitated. "You might have saved more than just one." Keanu looked up. "What do you mean?" "That man, he's a powerful guy. Maybe tonight changed something inside him." Keanu looked back at the flames. He didn't know it yet, but the man he saved would soon change the world. And this was only the beginning. The man in the hospital bed. The hospital room was quiet, except for the soft beeping of a heart monitor. White walls, clean sheets, flowers on the table that had already started to droop. The sunlight streamed in through the blinds, casting long lines across the floor. Daniel Ainsworth opened his eyes. At first, everything was blurry, shapes, colors, shadows. Then, pain hit him, sharp, heavy pain in his ribs and leg. He winced and turned his head slowly. A nurse stood near the door. She noticed and rushed to him. "Mr. Ainsworth," she said gently, "you're awake. Just breathe slowly. You're safe." His lips moved, dry and cracked. "What happened?" "There was a fire in your home. You were rescued. The doctors say you were lucky." Daniel blinked. "Who rescued me?" "Keanu Reeves," she answered with a soft smile. "He carried you out of the flames." Daniel tried to process that. The name sounded like a dream, a face from a movie, not real life. But the nurse nodded. Double quotes, "Yes, the Keanu Reeves. He pulled you out of the basement." A strange feeling stirred in Daniel's chest, not just surprise, but something deeper, something he hadn't felt in years. Gratitude. Outside the hospital, reporters crowded the gate. The story had gone viral overnight. Videos showed Keanu Reeves running into the fire. Photographs showed him carrying Daniel through the smoke. Social media was flooded with comments. Hashtags were trending. People were crying in their videos, praising him, calling him a hero. But Keanu stayed away from the spotlight. He didn't speak to reporters, didn't give interviews. When someone asked him about the fire, he simply said, "I did what anyone should do." But deep inside, he knew most people wouldn't have done it. He just couldn't let a man die alone. 2 days later, Keanu sat in his backyard feeding Luna. The dog lay quietly beside him. Her ears perked up. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. He didn't answer. It buzzed again. This time, a text followed. "Thank you. I need to see you." Keanu stared at the message. Part of him wanted to ignore it, but another part knew this meeting was important. When Keanu walked into the private room at the hospital, Daniel was sitting up in bed. His arm was wrapped in a cast. His face had a few burns, but his eyes were sharp, focused. "You came," Daniel said, voice rough. Keanu gave a small nod. "You asked." There was silence for a moment. Then Daniel leaned forward. "I don't remember much, just heat, darkness. I thought I was going to die." Keanu didn't speak. He let Daniel talk. "And then, you were there, in the fire, dragging me out." Daniel's voice cracked. "Why?" Keanu looked down for a second, then back up. "Because you were alive. That was enough." Tears filled Daniel's eyes. He hadn't cried since his mother died. Not even when his company nearly went bankrupt. Not even when his father left. But now, sitting in a hospital bed, face to face with the man who saved him, he couldn't hold it in. "You don't know what I've done," Daniel whispered. "I don't need to," Keanu replied. "Everyone deserves a chance." For the next hour, they talked. About life. About loneliness. About silence. Daniel confessed things no one had ever heard before. He talked about his regrets, the way he pushed people away, how he built his company but lost himself in the process, how he became so rich and powerful, yet so empty. Keanu listened. No judgment, no advice, just presence. And sometimes that's all someone needs. 3 weeks later, Daniel was discharged. As he stepped out of the hospital, a dozen reporters rushed forward. Cameras flashed, microphones were shoved in his face. But Daniel raised a hand. "Please," he said, "I want to speak." The crowd went quiet. "3 weeks ago, I almost died in my mansion," he began. "I thought the fire would end everything, but a stranger ran into the flames and pulled me out." He paused. That stranger was Keanu Reeves. Double quotes, gasps. Cameras clicked faster. He didn't ask who I was. He didn't care about my money or my reputation. He just saw a man who needed help. Daniel's voice grew stronger. "I've spent my whole life building walls, protecting myself, chasing success. But in the end, none of that mattered. What mattered was kindness. What mattered was humanity." He looked straight into the cameras. "So I've made a decision." Reporters leaned in. Daniel took a breath. "From today, I am stepping down as CEO of my company. I've appointed a new leader, someone with a heart for people, not just profit. And as for me, I'm going to use my resources to make the world better." Shock spread through the crowd. One reporter shouted, "What will you do next?" Daniel smiled softly. "I'm going to follow the man who saved me and try to live like he does." That night, Keanu sat on his porch, sipping tea. The stars were out. He didn't watch the news, didn't care about the attention. He just looked at the sky and felt a strange peace in his chest. Luna nudged his hand. He rubbed her head and whispered, "I think he's going to be all right." He didn't know that Daniel's decision would ripple across the country. He didn't know that millions of people would be inspired by it. He didn't know that this was only the beginning of a much bigger story. But deep down, he felt it. Something was changing. The ash doesn't lie. It had been 1 month since the fire. Daniel Ainsworth had officially stepped down as CEO of Ainsworth Global, one of the most powerful tech empires in the world. The stock market had trembled for a day, but then something unexpected happened. Instead of crashing, the company's value rose. Daniel single quotes S replacement, a woman named Miriam Hayes, was well loved by employees and respected across the industry. She brought in changes immediately: employee mental health programs, better maternity leave, free school for workers' children, and community rebuilding initiatives. The media called it the Reeves effect, but Daniel didn't care about headlines anymore. He had disappeared from the corporate spotlight and quietly started volunteering at shelters. He helped build houses, served food, cleaned parks. He did it all without cameras. The world barely recognized him in jeans and AHOODIE. And yet, deep inside, Daniel still had one burning question: who started the fire? One evening, Daniel sat across from Keanu on a wooden bench near a lake. They shared tea in silence, watching ducks glide over the water. Luna rested between them, eyes closed. "Keanu," Daniel said, "do you ever wonder if it was just an accident?" Keanu looked at the water, his expression unreadable. "Sometimes," he said, "but sometimes my gut says otherwise." Daniel nodded slowly. "I thought I was paranoid." He whispered, "But there's something off. My security system was down that night. 2 staff members were supposed to be home but vanished. And someone jammed the backup generator." Keanu turned to him, calm but alert. "Have you told the police?" "I tried," Daniel said, "but they brushed it off. Said the system failed because of faulty wiring." Keanu tilted his head. "Do you believe that?" "No," Daniel said. "Not anymore." The next day, Daniel went back to what was left of his mansion. Only a black skeleton stood where the grand home used to be. Ash covered the ground like snow. Police tape still clung to part of the fence, flapping in the wind. He stepped over the remains of what used to be his library, his office, his piano room. And then, he saw something strange. A corner of the basement hadn't been fully cleaned out. Most of it had collapsed, but near the wine cellar wall, a small metal box poked out from the rubble. Daniel crouched down and pulled it loose. Inside, He found a fireproof envelope. It was scorched around the edges, but still sealed. He opened it. Carefully. Inside was a note. The handwriting was messy. Hurried. If you're reading this, it means the plan worked. You'll survive, but your name won't. This is your punishment for what you did in Zambia. You buried us under your profits. Now we'll burn your legacy. Daniel froze. His mouth went dry. Zambia. 20 years ago, he had invested in a mining project there. He was young, hungry for success, and desperate to make a mark. He had trusted his legal team to handle the contracts. Reports later claimed the mining polluted local water and forced villagers to relocate. He had buried the story, hired people to make it disappear. And now, someone was back. Someone wanted revenge. He drove straight to Keanu's home. When he arrived, Keanu was in the backyard repairing a broken fence post. Luna barked once and wagged her tail as Daniel rushed in. I found this, Daniel said, shoving the envelope forward. Keanu read the note slowly, then looked up. Do you know what this means? I think I was the target. Someone wanted me dead. Keanu nodded. But they didn't expect you to survive. Daniel sat down on a bench, head in his hands. I thought I left my past behind. The past doesn't vanish, Keanu said quietly. It waits. What do I do now? Keanu was silent for a moment. Then he said, we find the truth, and you face it. Not for revenge, for redemption. Together, they began to investigate. Keanu called an old friend, a former forensic fire investigator named Ruth Okoye. She was sharp, fearless, and not afraid to go where others wouldn't. Ruth met them at the burned mansion. 2 days later, she walked the grounds with precision, inspecting every beam, every burn mark, every odd angle. After 4 hours, she stood near the remains of the backup generator. This wasn't faulty wiring, she said. This was sabotage. Someone cut the main line and placed a homemade delay fuse in the panel. It was meant to explode after midnight. Daniel's face paled. Can you prove it? With time, yes, Ruth said, but you need to be careful. Whoever did this might try again. Keanu stood quietly, eyes narrowed. They already failed once. They won't want to fail again. Later that night, Daniel stayed in a small hotel outside the city. He didn't tell anyone where he was, not even the front desk. But as he entered his room, he noticed something strange. The window was open. He was sure he had closed it. He checked his phone. No messages. No calls. Then he looked at the desk. A photo had been placed there. It was old. It showed a young boy standing near a muddy river. And behind him was Daniel. He stared at it for a long time. On the back, someone had written one sentence. You destroyed everything we had. He didn't sleep that night. At sunrise, he called Keanu. They know where I am. Don't panic, Keanu said. Come to my place. Daniel arrived 2 hours later, exhausted. Keanu met him at the door and handed him tea. We'll protect you, Keanu said. But now you have to do something more difficult. What's that? Keanu looked him in the eyes. You have to tell the world the truth. The confession, and the shadow of studio lights were bright. Daniel stood behind the curtain, hands trembling slightly, heart pounding in his chest. The world was watching. Across the country, millions were tuning in. Not to see a tech titan talk about innovation or announce a new product. No, they were watching to hear a man confess. In the dressing room earlier, Keanu had placed a hand on his shoulder and said, whatever happens out there, speak from your soul. People can forgive the truth, but they never forget a lie. Daniel nodded. And now, the moment had come. The host gave a short introduction. Tonight, we're joined by Daniel Ainsworth, former CEO of Ainsworth Global, the man rescued from the mansion fire by none other than Keanu Reeves. But Daniel is not here to talk about heroism or recovery. He's here to share something that may change how we see him forever. Daniel walked onto the stage. People clapped politely, unsure of what was coming. He sat down. The host asked gently, Are you ready, Daniel? Nodded. Then he looked straight into the camera and began. When I was 29, I invested in a mining project in Zambia. I was young, reckless, and more focused on profit than people. The project, it destroyed more than land. It broke families, poisoned water, displaced children. The room went silent. I buried the reports. I paid off people. I told myself it was business, but deep inside, I knew it was wrong. His voice cracked. And now, I believe someone affected by that decision is trying to kill me. Gasps echoed in the audience. Daniel held up the envelope from the fire and read parts of the threatening note. He showed the old photo of the boy by the river. I don't know his name. I don't know where he is now. But if you're watching this, I'm sorry. I was a coward. I should have stopped it. He took a deep breath. From this moment on, I'm dedicating my life to making things right. Not with money, not with press conferences, but with action, with truth. Then he looked into the camera again. And I ask only one thing from the person trying to destroy me: talk to me. Meet me. Don't let the fire consume us both. The response was immediate. Phones lit up. Social media exploded. Some people praised his honesty. Others doubted it. Some demanded justice. Others forgave. But one message stood out. It came through a private encrypted line on Daniel's old foundation email. It had no subject. The message said, "Meet me where the river used to flow, alone." Daniel showed Keanu the message. "You can't go alone," Keanu said. "It could be a trap." "I know," Daniel said, "but I have to. This is my cross to carry." Keanu stared at him for a long time. "Then I'll follow at a distance. Silent, you won't see me, but I'll be there." Daniel agreed. 2 days later, Daniel flew to Zambia. It had been 20 years. The river near the mining site had dried up, just like the warning signs had said it would. Where children used to swim and women used to wash clothes, now there was only cracked earth and a few forgotten shoes. Daniel stood alone in the middle of the dry riverbed. It was almost sunset. And then a voice called from the shadows, "You came." Daniel turned. A man stepped out from behind a broken tree. His clothes were simple. His face was hard, but his eyes were the same as the boy in the photo. "What's your name?" Daniel asked. The man's voice was sharp. "No names." "Not yet. You don't deserve that." Daniel didn't argue. "I'm sorry," he said again. "You can hate me. You can scream. But I need you to know, I remember." The man stepped closer. "My mother died because of your mine. The water killed her. My brother vanished. My home is gone. And now you want to say sorry?" Daniel's eyes filled with tears. "I know I can never undo that. But maybe we can build something from the ashes." The man laughed bitterly. "Ashes, yes, you know. I was the one who sent your maid away that night, paid her to leave the generator room unlocked." Daniel's mouth dropped open. I planned the fire." The man said coldly. "I wanted you to suffer, to burn the way my life did." Daniel took a step closer. "Then why warn me? Why leave the note where I'd find it?" The man hesitated. "Because when I watched you on the news that night, crawling out of the fire, in someone else's arms, I saw something. You weren't the monster anymore. You were just a man." They stood there in silence. Then Daniel reached into his pocket and pulled out a folder. "Here. This is everything. The original documents, the cover-up payments, the truth. I've made copies and sent them to international human rights groups. I'm not hiding anymore." The man took the folder, flipping through it. His hands trembled. "You're giving this up?" "Yes," Daniel said, "because truth matters more than my name." For a long time, the man said nothing. Then finally, he whispered, "Maybe we're both survivors of the same fire." And he walked away, folder in hand. Keanu watched from a distance. He had seen the exchange. He had seen the folder change hands. But more importantly, he had seen something deeper. Forgiveness. Not loud or dramatic. Just a quiet moment between two broken men. That night, Daniel and Keanu sat by a campfire under the stars. "Thank you," Daniel said. Keanu poked the fire with a stick. "Don't thank me. You walked through your own flames." Daniel smiled faintly. "Do you think it's over?" Keanu looked into the fire. "No, but I think something new just began." The enemy in the mirror. When Daniel returned to Los Angeles, the world already knew what he had done. His confession had aired in dozens of countries. It had been translated into 14 languages. Protests against corporate abuse turned into candlelight vigils for accountability. Daniel Ainsworth had become a strange kind of symbol, not of power, but of a man choosing truth over legacy. But as the plane touched down and he looked out at the glowing city lights, Daniel felt a heaviness in his chest. Not everything was healed. He was about to face something even harder than shame. He was about to face betrayal. Keanu picked Daniel up from the airport. They didn't talk much on the drive. The night felt thick with silence. Even Luna, curled up in the back seat, didn't make a sound. When they reached Keanu's home, Daniel sat on the porch steps, staring into the darkness. "You think he'll release the documents?" he asked quietly. "He will," Keanu said. "You gave him truth. Now he has a choice." Daniel nodded. But he had another thought that wouldn't go away. Who else knew about the fire? The next morning, Daniel received a message. It was from Ruth, the fire investigator. "We need to talk now." He met her at a small diner on the edge of town. She slid a folder across the table. Her eyes were tired, her voice low. "I kept digging into the fire. Something wasn't adding up." Daniel opened the folder. Photos, blueprints, security logs. "You were targeted." "Yes," Ruth said. But the basement sabotage wasn't the only thing done that night. Someone also disabled the external sprinklers. Someone who had access to your estate's maintenance system. Daniel looked up sharply. "Who?" Ruth hesitated. "Someone close. Someone you trusted." She flipped the final page. It was a picture of Daniel's personal assistant, Noah Hart, a man Daniel had known for 10 years, a man who had helped him through the hardest times, who had been with him through the lawsuits, the fundraising, the death of Daniel's brother, who had even visited him in the hospital after the fire. "No," Daniel whispered. "Not Noah." Ruth nodded sadly. "He was paid, not by the man you met in Zambia, by someone else. I traced the money through for fake accounts. The last one leads here, Los Angeles. It's someone trying to finish what the fire started." Daniel felt the air leave his lungs. "He's still working for someone?" "Yes," she said, "and I think they're planning something bigger." Keanu didn't speak when Daniel told him. He just leaned back, thinking. Then he stood. "We need to talk to Noah." "And say what?" Daniel asked. "Confront him? Accuse him?" Keanu's eyes were calm but sharp. "No, we give him a chance, the way you were given one." They invited Noah to meet at a public cafe. He arrived on time, smiling, acting like everything was normal. "Good to have you back, Daniel," he said. "I saw the confession. Powerful stuff." Daniel smiled tightly. "Thank you, but I have a question." Noah sipped his coffee. Double quotes. "Go ahead." "Where were you the night of the fire?" Noah blinked. "What?" "I mean exactly," Daniel said. "Not your story, the truth." Noah laughed nervously. "I was at home, asleep. You know that." Keanu leaned forward. "We have evidence, Noah. Security logs, payment trails. This is your chance to speak." Noah's smile faded. His eyes darkened. Then, slowly, he placed his coffee down and sat back. "So you found out," he said quietly. "Why?" Daniel asked. "You really want to know," Noah said, voice bitter. 10 years. 10 years I cleaned up your messes, lied for you, covered stories, watched you rise while I stayed in the background. When the Zambia case came up, I told you to pull out. You ignored me." Daniel's mouth opened, but no words came. "So when they offered me money to keep the sprinklers off, I said yes," Noah continued. "I didn't light the fire, but I made sure it couldn't be put out." Keanu's fists clenched under the table. Daniel's single quotes S voice was hoarse. "You wanted me dead. I wanted you gone," Noah said, "so someone better could rebuild everything you destroyed." Daniel swallowed. "You could have talked to me. You were a king," Noah said. "Kings don't listen." Keanu leaned in. "What's the bigger plan, Noah? Who's behind this?" Noah's eyes flicked to the side. Then he stood. "You're too late. Everything's already in motion." He walked out before they could stop him. Ruth traced the next move. She discovered that Noah had used a private account to rent a warehouse near the port. Inside, crates of counterfeit medical supplies were being prepared for shipment overseas with Daniel's old company name forged on the labels. If they were caught, the scandal would destroy the company's new leadership and ruin all the goodwill created after the confession. "They're going to fake a humanitarian crisis," Ruth explained. "Make it look like your company is exploiting sick children in third world countries." Daniel felt sick. Keanu stood up. Then we stopped them before they get the shipment out. That night, they went to the warehouse. Keanu wore black. Daniel wore silence. Ruth stayed outside with 2 trusted investigators ready to alert authorities if things went wrong. Inside the warehouse, Noah stood with 3 men, overseeing the loading of crates onto trucks. Keanu and Daniel moved like shadows through the darkness. Then Keanu stepped out, calm and steady. It's over. Guns were drawn. But Daniel walked out beside him, holding up his phone. The police are outside. He said, "We have everything recorded. Walk away now, or this ends in a way you won't recover from." Noah stared at him. Then something changed in his face. Not fear. Relief. He raised his hands and said, "Maybe I never wanted to win. Maybe I just wanted you to fall." Police stormed in. Men were arrested. The trucks were stopped. And once again, Keanu stood between Daniel and the flames. The next morning, Daniel sat on the same porch steps, staring at the sunrise. Keanu handed him tea. "You okay?" Daniel nodded slowly. "Noah, he was right about some things. I used to be unreachable." "You're not anymore," Keanu said. Daniel looked at him. "How do you stay calm through all this?" Keanu smiled. "I've seen enough fire to know when it's time to walk away." Daniel chuckled softly. "I'm glad you didn't that night." Keanu looked out at the sky. Some flames are worth running into. The legacy of the Flamith city was quiet. Weeks had passed since the warehouse raid. Noah Hart had been charged, along with the men who tried to use Daniel's name for a global scandal. The world had watched, shocked, as the story unfolded. Daniel Ainsworth, once a ruthless CEO, had become the face of something new: redemption through truth. But for Daniel, peace had not come easily. He walked through the burned remains of his old mansion once more. The rubble had cooled. Grass was beginning to grow where marble once stood. The scent of ash still lingered, but the fire had done more than destroy a house. It had burned away the man he used to be. Keanu stood beside him, hands in his pockets. Luna at his feet. "You don't have to rebuild here," Keanu said softly. "I know," Daniel replied, "but I don't want to forget." Keanu looked at him with quiet understanding. "You won't." The following month, Daniel held a press conference, not in a luxury hotel, not on a rooftop, but in a children's library being built downtown. Journalists sat on folding chairs. Volunteers stood beside kids holding painted signs that read, "To heal in books, not boardrooms." Daniel took the small stage. His voice was calm, but his words carried weight. "I've spent half my life building towers, raising profits, chasing numbers, and I forgot the most important thing: people." He paused. "So today, I'm not launching a company. I'm not announcing a product. I'm opening a foundation." He raised his hand, revealing the logo, an open hand catching a falling flame. "The Firelight Foundation. It will build schools in forgotten places, offer clean water where corruption took it away, and give children the tools to rise: books, teachers, and time." The crowd clapped. But Daniel wasn't done. "And none of this would have happened without the man who walked into the fire to save me." He turned and pointed to the side of the stage. Double quotes Keanu. Double quotes. The crowd looked. Keanu was standing quietly in a black shirt and jeans, hands folded, unsure of what to do. Daniel smiled and waved him forward. Slowly, Keanu stepped up. Daniel handed him the microphone. "Say something," he whispered. Keanu stared at the crowd. Then he said, simply, "He saved himself. I just carried him through the smoke." Later that evening, they sat by the lake where it had all started. The same bench, the same silence. Luna chased ducks nearby. "You know," Daniel said, "I've been offered positions again. Board seats, partnerships, a book deal. You taking any of them?" Keanu asked. Daniel shook his head. "No, I want to work where people forget your name. But remember your help." Keanu smiled. "You finally get it." "I think so," Daniel said, then looked at him. "But now I have a question for you." "What's that?" "Why did you run into the fire that night, really?" Keanu looked down, then back at the water. "Because once, a man ran into a fire for me. He didn't make it, but he gave me a second chance. I've been trying to pay it forward ever since." Daniel nodded. eyes stinging. Double quotes. Well, you paid it forward. With interest. Keanu stood up. Then it's time. Time for what? Keanu looked at him. For you to do the same. The next year was a quiet revolution. The Firelight Foundation opened 10 learning centers. One of them stood on the land where Daniel's mansion once burned. The floor was made of recycled stone and glass, and carved into the entrance were words from a letter written by the boy from Zambia. He cannot undo what was taken, but he gave us what was left of himself. Every day, children walked through that door holding books and hope. On Daniel's birthday, he received a package. No name, no return address. Inside, a photo of the same riverbed where he had once stood with the man from Zambia. But this time, it was full of children again, laughing, running, playing soccer on fresh grass. On the back, only one line: you built again. With clean hands. Keanu Reeves never returned to the spotlight. He went back to fixing fences, walking Luna, and helping neighbors. But once a year, on the night of the fire, Daniel visited him. They sat by the lake, drank tea, and said nothing at all, because some stories don't need retelling. They just need remembering. Final scene. A school bell rings. Children run out laughing. A janitor sweeps the floor and pauses to look at the photo on the wall. Keanu and Daniel standing side by side, covered in ash, but smiling. Beneath it, a plaque reads, "From the fire, they built a future."